Have you dreamed of bigger things for your life? Then you are in the right place. Each week, you will be given tips on how to change your inner dialogue, conquer your goals, and ways to step into a higher version of yourself. I'm your host, Lauren Kubat. I'm a motivational speaker who hosts personal development events. I'm a sought-after fitness instructor, a wife, and a mom of 2 young boys. I'm obsessed with all things personal development, and I believe anyone can achieve the life they want. Let the Become Your Vision podcast be the inspiration you need to step into greater things. Now let's go. Hi guys. From the title, you should know that we are talking all about finances today. This episode has been a long time coming. I've been wanting to talk about finances for a while now, just because I need to learn more about money and finances. And from this episode, you'll learn that most women are not educated in this area. And just people in general, but especially women, we should know a lot more than we do, myself included. The questions I ask, I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? What does that mean? I feel like a child learning to ride a bike for the first time. I am still trying to wrap my head around stocks and mutual funds, but Debra Ohstrom, is our guest today, and she definitely cleared up some of the confusion for me, and I know she will clear it up for you. And Debra is one of my show sponsors. I'm so grateful for her. What Debra does is she helps women become financially fit, because finances can be very overwhelming. So she is a financial coach and helps women create their own financial plan with simple methods. And she offers one-on-one coaching, has an online program to help women take control of their financial future. I include all that information. We talk about it towards the end of the episode. All of that information is in the show notes with her website and Instagram handle. And I also want to mention that I am having a self-esteem boot camp, because that is another area where we can all improve. I am looking to start it in March. It's going to be via Zoom, probably 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm thinking a Tuesday night for 4 weeks. If you can't make it to one of the workshops, one of the nights, everything is recorded, so I will send that to you. To get into the boot camp, it is only $17. I am still working up all the odds and ends, putting everything together. But if you want to be included in this, or to get more information on this self-esteem bootcamp, all you have to do is send me the word bootcamp to my email. It's lkubat, K-U-B as in boy, A as in apple, T as in Tom, P as in penguin, T as in Tom, @gmail.com. I don't know why I started sharing all the letter phonics. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but that's my email. It is in the show notes. Again, just send the word bootcamp to lkubatpt@gmail.com, and I will send you all the information. And it's just another way to socialize with a group of women that all have the same goal, and that is to increase our self-esteem. Okay, you guys, let's get into the show. Enjoy. You guys, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to talk about money for a while now, and I've been wanting to have a guest on who is skilled in this area. So today we are talking about all things finances, and our guest today is Debra Ohstrom. In the bio, in the intro, you heard everything that she does. So thank you, Debra, for being on the show today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here and talk about all of these, money is very emotional and so important to all of us because obviously we all work hard for our money. So, and it's an important topic to me, having been working in the industry for so long and trying to help women have the best life that they deserve to. So it's great to be here.
Yay. Yeah, especially it's a topic I don't feel like is talked about enough amongst women, and money is emotional. And I want to first talk about the mindset around money and emotions. And I think the way our parents handled money has a direct impact on how we feel about money and handle money as a result and as an adult. And just like a backstory here, I want to share, like, growing up, my mom definitely has come a long ways with finances, but I was one of 5 kids, middle child. My parents were both working. And I know that my dad had he just didn't know how to handle money. He would take out credit cards because it's like, oh, 0% interest. And then he would get very emotional around money, like angry around money and talking about neighbors who had certain things. And wouldn't it be nice if we could have all that? And I remember anytime, like, we used to check out at the grocery store or Kohl's or wherever it would be like huffing and puffing almost. And then I would feel like this guilt for, like, oh, he just spent money on me. And that carried into my adult life. And I would say in the past year or so, maybe a year, I would probably say year and a half, that guilt is no longer there, because for such a long time, I felt like anytime I spent money, it was like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get this back? Even like $20, $30. I'm like, I felt like an emotional attachment to the money. And I realized that I had to change my mindset around money. That was my limiting belief. And now when I look at money, I'm like, it's just for me, and it's an exchange of energy. And I know there's always more to come. And I know it's constantly flowing in and flowing out. Like, it's always going to be this like ebb and flow, to it. So
Right.
Can you talk about the emotions around money and where it comes from and what you deal with when, like, women are coming in, that emotional side of helping women get through it?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I mean, because it's, even me growing up, my parents were separated when I was very young. So my mom, wasn't educated at all about any money, never, and the stress and anxiety around it was tangible. And I, same thing. I mean, that is honestly what drove me to end up learning so much about it, is because I grew up and saw the stress, and it impacts so many of your other life decisions. Like, she was so worried about money, she would end up not making good decisions about her health or relationships. And it really, permeates everything in your life. And I mean, it's, to me, and it is so emotional, and it's even men don't want to admit necessarily how emotional it is, but we're human beings, right? And emotions drive our decisions. And it really, it's kind of like so many things in life, you kind of do need to be aware, right? Like, you had this awareness that you were sensing these triggers. Like, why am I having anxiety over buying this $25 item? And so it's also, this whole concept of having a budget, right? It's, to me, it's, you do need a general rough guide to understand the picture of where your money is going, but it doesn't mean, and there's so many negative connotations around the word budget, like it's a super strict, thing. And as I'm sure in other parts of your life, that living a life or an area of your life that's so constricting
Mm-hmm.
is just not going to be successful for the long term. I am a huge believer in moderation. And if you are unfortunately in a situation where you are concerned so much about money, then instead of just, as my mother did, you had a lot of anxiety. There are other ways to kind of see it in a more positive light or aspect where you're focusing on, okay, how can I increase the income side of
Mm-hmm.
my balance sheet, so to speak? And there are a lot more ways now to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's, recognizing that we kind of inherit these attitudes, I guess, and not, and because you're not aware, then you're not going to be able to kind of assess and change. And that, that can even impact people's spending. You're
Mm-hmm.
emotionally spending money, which obviously isn't a positive thing to do either. So it's always going back to the root cause. There is something now that is becoming more prevalent out there for that. There's something called financial therapy. I don't know if you've heard of it. I only recently heard
Mm.
of it recently, and it is to help people in more of this emotional aspect,
Right.
because it is its own unique specialty, so to speak,
Right.
because especially when it comes to things like overspending, when it's more of an addictive behavior,
Yeah.
because those things can come out in someone's life so many different ways, and sometimes it's in that spending area. But I am honestly a lot like what you were saying, where um money is a tool. It's, something that you, it needs to have a proper place in your life, so to
Right.
speak, right?
Yeah.
It's not the be all end all. It doesn't define who you are as a human. It is, something that can grow with investing. It brings us joy when we get to experience things with our family, if that's what we're into.
Yeah.
And, different people have different values or what they want to spend their money on. And it's very personal. So some
Right.
people love to
I think
spend money in different ways.
what you're saying too, I think the first step too is like thinking about how we think about money, like whether we constantly feel the need to have more or whether we are basing our worth based upon how much is
Yes.
in our checking account, is to start to think about when we first knew about finances or how it was modeled when we were a child. Because as an adult, I we didn't, my husband and I, there wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, we had a tremendous amount of credit card debt. There was, we both had student loan debt, and I think there was anxiety that came from that. But I took the actions from, my father and how he handled money, and I adapted it to my own life when that wasn't even, we can make a problem out of nothing. And I started thinking, oh, like I have some kind of problem and I don't know how to handle money and I'm not making enough money. And I was like, I had to really stop and think like, okay, well, why am I thinking these things? When was it modeled? And just like you said about any area of our life, if it's too constricting, we are going to blow a gasket. When it comes to like fitness, if we're like, okay, we can only have 1,200 calories a day and we have to work out this, number of minutes every single day. And if we don't, we're going to fail. And I like that you mentioned there should be some type of flexibility, because when I also first started to learn about budgeting and finances, everybody was talking about Dave Ramsey and this envelope method. It's so funny because every time I mentioned Dave Ramsey before, my husband, and there's listeners that they followed him or whatever, but I try to adapt this because when our checking accounts fused together and there was no separate, it was, just us when we got married. I was like, we should do this Dave Ramsey. And it's so funny you had that reaction because my husband's like, oh, like I understand we have to budget, but that's like so constricting. It's like, I also want to enjoy my money. I don't want to like die and, wait till we get to where we're retired and then be able to do things with our money. And I was like, that is so, so true. So let's get into the basics of finances. I know there are tons of listeners, myself included, we weren't educated in this area. Maybe it's your spouse that handles the finances. What are some of the basic things we should think about when looking at our finances, or like bare minimum things we should like set in place or work on right now?
I mean, it really is very similar to any, well, not any, but a lot of other processes that we think about in our life. And I've been using the health fitness analogy a lot because, the first thing you need to do is assess your current situation. So where kind of are you? Do you have an emergency savings account? And, there's some general guidelines out there, and they talk about 3 to 6 months worth of income expenses, should be in your emergency account. But once again, that you need to kind of assess what you feel comfortable with and what kind of situation you're in to know whether am I most comfortable with 3 months or should I make it 6 months because I'm not really sure how my job is. So, but that really is one of the first things you need to have in case, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it is that budget for just getting the sense of, what my income coming in and the spending going out so that you can figure out that next step of how much money every month can I move off to get started investing so that my money starts growing for me. Mm-hmm. So, and then when you're assessing yourself, you need to have goals for your money, just like goals for your fitness plan, and it can be different for everybody. And, whether it's retirement goals, or some people might want to have a little money to start putting towards helping with kids' college, if that's what they're going to do. Because depending on what the goal is, determines how it should be invested. And it's all a function of time and what your risk appetite is. So, and that depends on, how old you are, and then you can figure out, the right investment mix for that money bucket or money goal.
Okay. Yeah. You said a lot of good points there. I just want to reiterate. So when we're starting our budget, or starting to look at our finances, I should say, first, develop an emergency savings account, whether that's 3 to 6 months, figure out the income coming in and income going out. What if there is a listener with a lot of debt and they're like, well, I just need to make more money. I want to be a millionaire. I need to make more money. What do you suggest that they do first?
You mean as far as, do you pay off first, or do you start investing, or?
Correct. Yeah. So if they're like, I have so much debt, how do I get an emergency, savings account when I have all of this debt?
This is kind of related to what we were talking about before, because I know that having that debt hanging over you mentally, right? The emotional part of it, it can drive you not necessarily to make the best decision, or, bother you so much that all you do is want to pay that debt down. But it really depends on the kind of debt it is, because this is the other thing. Debt is a tool. It's not good and it's not bad. It all depends on the interest rate of that debt. So yes, credit cards are crazy because they charge you so much interest rate. But even student loans, if you were fortunate enough to have a student loan that is, 4 or 5% in interest, that's not outrageously crazy. And if you have a long time frame to pay it back, you're actually, it depends on what your choices are with that dollar. What else would you be doing with that money? So if you can invest that money and earn 10 or 12% over the 10 years, well, you're ahead of the game because the debt, you're paying 5% on the debt, but you're earning 12% on investing it. So you're better off. And even though you still, it bothers you to have it, but honestly, in the long run, you're better off investing the money and not paying the debt off.
Right. I think that's a hard concept for people to understand. I remember when my husband and I, were talking before when we initially, got out of school. And we both had, student loans, and he had a different perspective on it than I do because I just didn't have that education around finances growing up. So we were taught like, okay, to be debt free and pay off debt. So we looked at, saying your desk is almost full, save space by optimizing storage. Oh my gosh. Hopefully it doesn't cut us off here, folks. I'm like, I just did this the other day. And looking at debt is like, it's kind of like when we look at food, kind of like neutral. You eat some types of food that give us more nutrition. And the same with what we're saying is, okay, if rate is 5% on the invested in, let's say retirement account, I guess that's essentially, or a property or whatever, you're getting 12% interest rate. You're better off debt and investing in something else. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just on what are you that, you would be using to pay off the debt early. So it's, if you're just go out to dinner, go on expensive vacations, not pay off early, well, then that's a decision. But if you're going to actually get the money and use it to make money, then, and that you're going to get in return more than the interest you're paying student loan, then you're better off doing that. I think the other thing is comes actually into life decisions in an absolute, of course, in an absolute world because you pay interest, but it's even like the buy my car or should I leave? Well, in the long term, yes, it is cheaper because you'll get to use it and you'll have some years where you don't have to. But you have a lower monthly payment, difference in monthly payment, and invested in your DART, earning 10 or 12 on that money over 30 years. That is going to do a lot better for you than buying the car versus car. So it's kind of like, I see the world as a relative place. It's like, okay, well, why? Or do I, it kind of,
let's go into this of investments. So can you so we can get each one?
So you for and educating mutual funds invest because I think and buy invest. I think that to pick stocks, and that's so a very trading long. And if all are to invest on the internet, unfortunately, that's all there is. What the individuals and these top 5 stocks now, and half of them aren't going to work out. So what I try to do is talk about low fee index funds, which are either mutual funds or exchange traded funds. And that honestly, what a lot of professional investors do to make investing a lot more straightforward is you group investments into categories, whether it's types of bonds or types of stocks. And that is basically what an index is. And then you can combine indexes in a way that's right for you. So it's honestly not all that different when you're building a meal plan for someone and you're breaking their calories out into the appropriate proteins, carbs, and fats. So an investment account for your specific goal, we would break into stocks, bond, cash. And the way we would get there is by using these really convenient index ETFs or mutual funds.
Oh my gosh. See, even now I'm like, oh my gosh, what is all this? I first discovered Nutrare. I'm like, what what are saying these words? I hope I can't be the only one out there.
Only one.
Because my husband does do, and he understands all this, helps me feel as well. And I think, the problem, we don't. And it's like, oh, they got, really, you can't, in, whether it's your nutrition or faith. Let's talk about, let's go back to that. So it's get low fee investments. Okay. Types of examples of.
Well, first, mutual funds. So great is basically pre-packaged of stock group basket for invest to do all this, or a bond. They package together for you and categories. So much nicer, instead of having some in the US at a large, right. And I know my money, and it downs that you experience.
So like, for example, I'll just share, I have Vanguard, and that's my retirement savings account. So that would be baskets of mutual funds and exchange traded funds, correct?
So those are probably some mutual funds that are holding baskets of stocks. So you own, instead of owning, like, a stock is when you buy a share of stock for a company, you now are you're a percentage owner of that company.
Right.
So now for the mutual fund, you're now a percentage owner of a group of stocks.
Okay.
So it's a bundle. So you now probably have shares. So you own a percentage of that Vanguard mutual fund, which is a basket of stocks.
Gotcha. So if like Ethereum or Bitcoin were part of this, but they're generally not, but those are the two like main stocks that are used for, I guess, day trading, I guess you long-term trading, but that is generally different than what you're going to get from a company like Vanguard, correct?
Yes. So Vanguard doesn't, as far as I know, they have not dipped their offering into cryptocurrencies. So that's what Bitcoin and Ethereum are.
Gotcha.
But what's changed the system for cryptocurrencies are now a couple of companies, a type of exactly that, but it's a way to buy Ethereum. There is the ability to do that now.
Basically, I don't know why I'm so like, let's Ethereum and but we're like, okay, I have my thing like coin.
Like where you're going with people about it helps to have it. So there's like, which you got your term, and that's Vanguard, and maybe a little more rand. You wouldn't want your pieces of your overall someone. So, or even thematic mutual fund, electronic vehicle, there's just dial maybe a teeny bit complementary to if you that your emotion. And this is panic when the market goes, actually it can be an opportunity
basket, because another basket, you're like, to the more long
to the which is, and it's also, build whatever it is, you have a game and go to the Super Bowl, whatever, load up the goal. So you need to figure out what the right mix of offense and defense is for you. And that depends on the money goal. So let's say for retirement, right? So if you're in your 30s, there are some just general guidelines to help people think about it. And this is where you kind of also need to figure out how aggressive you want to be. But that being said, oftentimes to make it really straightforward, you could do something like you start with 100.
Ooh. So
we're
like thousands.
Then X could be in stocks. It goes back to that percentage, like carbs and fats. You break it into stocks. There are 30, and you're saying a good place to start is 30% in defense, which is cash and bonds. Someone who wants to, complement, maybe either could take a little, add it to stocks, be more aggressive, or dial up need perfect answer,
right?
Of get the rum, and it's good. The investment's great. You need to add
or from whatever. If you have a month. So let's say that you would want in stocks, and then so $70, $30 or 30% you would want in bonds.
It kind of really more retirement accounts as you get older and you get different. The investing because you need to spend the money. So that are, but they're very, but they also have small.
Mm-hmm. Do you talk about property, like your specialty?
Specialty state also, you just of each, and what is the goal of the money and what's it for, etc. So, I mean, real estate is one of those things where it's less liquid. It costs a lot to buy it, and it costs a lot to sell it. And you're not going to just get to sell it if you want to. You have to put it up for sale, and the year you have, as long as you're aware of kind of income versus expense, like what that looks like, is it matched spending more than, and I'm also, as I'm saying, I'm not, anybody wants to spend a lot of people off. We want to go shit from the mix over 30 years, you hear with you're going to get, not check your investment. And your money is, or anything.
Okay, look at my expense without nearly. Okay, what are you saying? Like PR, CAC, and dollars, right there, building that. Look at it, $80 and $200, but looking
aware of, if you don't, it's free, and it can even help with investing. So it's really good, and it's free. And there's others that some people, but they cost money, and there's so many free things out there that I'd rather have people use free than spend more money on a subscription.
Yeah.
So
now you are doing a workshop coming up, correct? Can you tell us what this workshop is?
Oh, yes. Super excited. And this is, February 23rd. It's for women. And I think, and to go over topics, because women are very hard on themselves and, think that they should know this information already. And it's really not true, because like you're saying, you don't get taught any of this information in high school. They don't even teach it in college unless you're a finance major. So, I'm talking to women about the state of where women are in financial wellness in the country, so that they understand they're not alone.
Where are we? Just so we know.
It's like 60% of all women do not feel confident that they could even retire at 65. And I think it's something like 26% of all women are invested in the stock market, which is a very low number.
Would say that number again?
26% are investing in the stock market.
Wow.
Yeah. And that, like we were talking before, over 50% of women do leave the finance and investing decisions all to their significant other. And it isn't good. I agree with you totally that even just to be involved in the conversation is important. So, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, to try and make it a lot easier to understand, because literally only in the past, say, 5 or 6 years, has there been so much choice available now to make it easier with exchange traded funds to really either do it yourself or understand it, so you could have better conversations if you're someone that wants to have an advisor or not. And then the other big thing, because I think this also is what holds women back, is 80% of all financial advisors in our country are men. And their average age is 55. So how many women really want to go talk to a stranger who's an older man, who's going to really feel like they're being understood and not judged, and talk about the emotional issues around money? It's just, not working. So that's why I created these courses to help women understand in a straightforward way all of these concepts so that they can either get started now or hopefully in time. If they want a financial advisor, they can learn how to hire the right one for them, because I've also created a guide to do that.
What are some of the things, like if they're like, okay, I feel overwhelmed when they are looking to hire a financial advisor, what are like the do's and the don'ts? What should they look for?
Well, you need to understand that there's different types, and it depends on where they work. So, and how they get paid. And, so you just need to feel confident enough to ask the questions. Like, most advisors probably will recommend mutual funds or exchange traded funds. And that's how they, you need to understand how they're getting paid, because it's usually based off of commissions, or they require a fee. So that's just, you need to kind of ask that up front. How are you getting
Which one is better or worse? Which, like, if they take a commission or you pay a fee up front, is there one of them like you should try to avoid that?
I guess so. The real issue for me, and why I'm doing my business the way that I am, which is not the norm, is because the way the financial advice industry has evolved and been set up is that it really, to me, doesn't serve people very well that are starting out, don't have a lot of wealth already accumulated, because many advisors that have a lot of experience have minimums. They won't even take you on as a client without a certain amount of wealth. Or they do have a minimum fee, which if you're at the stage in your life where you're doing $50 a month or $100 a month, that's not going to work. So if you then you're going to end up going to a bank or something like that. And, there are a lot of fees involved. It could be a 5% commission right off the top. And then you're probably paying 1 to 1.5 as time goes on. And that can erode your returns over time. So that's why I say it's gotten so straightforward now with exchange traded funds and so low fee with companies like Vanguard. It with a little bit of knowledge, you could really do it yourself, at least in the beginning, to get you started, so that when you're in your 40s, you have the wealth and life gets complicated and it really makes sense to have an advisor. But if nobody teaches you in the beginning, how are you ever going to get there?
Right. So then how do you do it different as far as like the commission or the minimum, or if somebody wants to come to you?
Right. So here is the difference that I also talk about in my guide, that there's a difference between a financial coach, a financial planner, and a financial advisor. So I don't manage people's money. I've created courses and I do one-on-one coaching to help teach people how to make good decisions to do it themselves, or hire the right advisor for them.
Gotcha.
So I view myself more as an educator for a flat fee that is a lot more accessible than charging fees over time, that adds up.
Yeah.
So I'm more
that.
about volume and empowering people to do it themselves and make good decisions for the long term. That's what I would rather do.
It's like you can't hire somebody to work out for you, right? Going back to that analogy, but you can coach somebody. Okay, this is how you do it. Yes. This is how you use that machine. And this is what you can offer. And then, so that's similar to what you do. It's like, okay, this is what does this. And, this is what's going to get you this result. And this is how you do it. So I like that you refer to yourself as an educator, not like, okay, I'm just going to take the reins and do it all yourself. And because then ultimately at the end of the day, you're still confused. Somebody's managed my money, but I don't know how they're managing it. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's why over the past 30 years, nothing's changed. Women still aren't, feeling confident. It's because of that exact thing. It's
Mhm.
not, to me, it's not serving women well and getting them to where they need to be to make good decisions,
Yeah.
for life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Where can listeners find you?
I've got my website at debraohstrom.com where all my services are listed. I've got free guides. I've got a free workshop on my website.
Awesome.
So,
I'll leave that all
yeah.
in the show notes. And some of you guys might have seen or heard that Debra is a sponsor of the show. So I really appreciate you for that. And just women supporting women. I think it's huge. That is a big catalyst of why I do what I do, is just being able to support other women. And that's why most of the people I interview on here is women, getting the word out and building your business. Are you active on social media at all?
I am. I have Instagram, which is Debra Ohstrom 1 is my handle. I've got a Facebook page. I'm on Facebook. Investing Knowledge is my Facebook page.
Awesome. And we will leave all of that information in the show notes so that people can find you. And I appreciate you being on, and I hope the listener got, at least one piece of advice. I know they're going to get so much more, but just at least one piece of advice where they can take it and apply it to their life and realize, okay, just face your finances, come face to face with them, look at them. What worked for me is just, I like spreadsheets. It's nerdy, but like simple spreadsheets.
Oh, wow.
I just made a simple Excel spreadsheet with all of our finances, even though my husband, does most of it and controls the stocks, whatever part of the stocks, because I have my own stocks too. But anywho, I just wrote up all of our income, where we get our income from. And then I wrote up our monthly budget, and that helped me. All I had to do is, just look in our bank account, see what we were spending, and, broke it up into category: food, Amazon purchases, gas, other expenses. But that's a tip that I use that hopefully you listeners can. If you're like, I don't even know where to start there. Just come face to face with it.
Totally awesome advice. That's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And if you love this episode, please make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, screenshot this episode, share it with your friends, your family, any woman in your life that are like, okay, we need to take control of our finances. We need to be empowered to do so. Spread the word. It starts with you. And remember, you got this. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you love this episode, make sure you are subscribed so you know when more episodes come available. My goal is to inspire others to become their vision, and one way to get the word out is with reviews. I would really appreciate it if you left an honest review on iTunes, and it would mean so much to me. Thanks again, and remember to go after the life you want. Bye, guys.